Politics. That'll work. I will find one frame in there that will work for that.
I beg you to put that in the video.
Yeah, that's pretty good. There's been a lot of chatter online about politics in games, movies, media, etc. And generally the things we do for fun, honestly. From video games to movies to tabletop RPGs, it seems every new release comes with a heated debate about if something is or isn't woke.
Some people just want to play as a male character, or at least have that choice.
Explicitly, and I quote the various scholars and writers who've been pushing this for years, this is explicitly the aim. It's a basis for mad.
He denied that women in games are becoming uglier, he denied that games are becoming less masculine, and he denied that games are becoming more woke. What I want to talk about in this video is all of the ridiculous woke girl boss announcement in games that are coming out in 2025.
So my son Xavier is dead, killed by the woke wine virus.
A lot of the debate hinges on a fundamental understanding of what politics even are. And to be perfectly honest, I genuinely do not think that the entire argument understands what politics are in the first place. Given my history and how I tend to speak on certain topics, I think it might be really easy to assume I'm going to give the very simple pandering answer of yes, politics do belong in your games, campaigns, etc. But to be honest, I think even that statement is just grossly simplifying what is genuinely a really interesting topic that has a lot more nuance than I or many others have given it credit for. But before I get into that topic, let me address the elephant in the room here. Yeah, this video was made in large part due to the backlash of the opening of my previous video. If you missed that one, and let's be honest, you likely did given how quickly YouTube's algorithm shot it out of the water, please feel free to click the card on the screen to see what I'm talking about, and then you can return here. Now I want to be clear, what I will not be doing in this video is staunchly defending what was said with absolutely no nuance, because I think we took what was an incredibly complex topic and reduced it down to a 60-second clip. And I believe I, personally, as the editor of the video, was wrong to do that. However, this is not going to be me backtracking on the views expressed either. They were stated, they were real, they have not changed, but I think there was more to the conversation than I or my wife allowed to happen, mainly me. And that conversation deserves to be had in good faith, not an adversarial one. And as such, because I was not the one who directly said what was stated, but I did make sure to be the one to edit the video, and I decided to put it in there, I do want to give the other person behind this channel, my wife, the chance to be able to say what she wants to say in response to that. I will be giving her full breadth to say what is necessary, and I will make sure to approve with her that I've edited it in a way that she wanted to say it, and then I will be expressing my thoughts over the course of this video, not just on what was said, but also just on the entire concept of whether politics do belong in gaming in general. So with that being said, and without further ado, the first wife-devoted segment on this channel.
So in case you don't want to go back to the other video, I said fuck Trump. And Jay edited it in a very iconic way.
It was funny. I'm funny.
We're not gonna go that far. You're not the funniest person I know. And I have read every comment. Thanks so much, y'all. Some of y'all were not the nicest, and that's totally fair. Like, I said something that was very adversarial and also didn't in large have any chance for conversation about it. One topic or one comment that stuck out to me the most was just like, how are you any better than the people who are also saying this on the other side? You're just kind of ignoring the fact that there were good people who supported that individual. And I wanted to address that specifically in saying that if you are not aware, Jay and I live in Texas. That's in the South of the United States, and the South is very much known for being conservative. And this is not, I would say, a party war. This is a class war, more than likely, or not even a class war, but just like a class. I don't know. I can't think of the word, but it's a class problem. It's not a party problem. It's not conservatives versus liberals. This is the rich versus the poor. I'm very much so eat the rich mentality and things like that. But I'm also, if you were to actually talk to me, there's a lot of things that I don't agree with on the liberal side too. So anyway, nuance. There's a lot of things in life.
Life needs things to live.
I grew up and have grown up in an environment where some of the extreme ideals of the conservative party were just kind of a natural part of my life. I'm not saying that I ever took part in it, because I was able to recognize at a young age that it was wrong, but I do have a distinct memory of like somebody having road rage in my family and deciding to use the N-word and like screaming at somebody who is a person of color because they didn't agree with it. And I feel in large part that Trump helps give voices and platforms to those types of individuals, and he doesn't discourage it. And I think that that is a very harmful thing that I ultimately do not support. But this isn't to say that like there are people out there that are fully like that. I have to recognize that, because there are people in my life that are not like that. And that comment stuck out to me, the one just saying like, look to the other side. And I hope you know that I'm not just in an echo chamber. I'm very conscious of that in an effort to ensure that my worldview and what I'm ingesting on a day-to-day is supporting and just loving humanity as a whole rather than not. And I'm not a public speaker, just as a disclosure. That's Jay's thing. If you know me in real life, and like if you're a part of my life, I cook you meals, I do things for you, take care of your animals, like I show up for you, and that's my thing. I'm never good with words, and that's never something I'll claim to do. But anyway, I'm sorry for being harsh. I still hold the sentiment that if you blindly follow Trump and also don't understand how people can feel harmed by your actions of supporting him, that you're not in the right space. I do think that he's a really harmful person, and if you can't understand that, then I again just don't feel like this is the right space for you to share in that view and want to continue to hang out with us. Hope that makes sense. Here you go. Hopefully Jay edits this really beautifully and makes me look cooler than I am. Sorry, I'm a really bad public speaker.
So, 1, thank you, wife. 2, actually some of the things that you just said made me feel the need to clarify something. I forget that it's been a very long time since I've talked about myself and my past history on this channel. So, in order to give context of who I am, very briefly, I just want to make it clear. I was raised in a church, about as close to a pastor's kid as you could be without actually being a pastor's kid. I was raised in the conservative faith. I know what it's like. I've been there. I have experienced it. And no, I do not think it is all hateful. But the stance that I have today and the person who I am today is informed by that in many parts. The opinions that I have is because I have seen the people who hold the opinions on the other side. And I think it's important for me to state that and to make it clear that I understand and I have been there and I get it. And I have believed those things in the past. I have made apologies on this channel for once holding harmful beliefs and being, in my opinion, not the greatest person. I have since grown from that, and I understand where people are coming from when there's room to learn. It shouldn't be difficult to learn how to love other people. But with that being said, let's jump into the rest of the video and the rest of my script, because there is a lot to talk about, and not just about me or my wife, but also this topic, which I do genuinely find actually interesting. So first, let's define politics. At its core, politics refers to the activities associated with governance. If you were to look up the literal dictionary definition of political, you would get the following: of relating to government, a government, or the conduct of government. Or, for another definition, of relating to or concerned with the making as distinguished from the administration of governmental policy. So, if politics are relating to government or the conduct of said government, what is the definition of government? Well, government is the governing body of a nation, state, or community. Again, textbook definition. So, to be political is to be about how people organize societies, distribute resources, and make decisions that affect communities. Simple enough, right? But the word politics itself has been hijacked to mean something entirely else. Somewhere along the way, we started calling things like gender, race, and even basic human rights political. And that's not just inaccurate, it's manipulative. Now don't get me wrong, it is the nature of human language to evolve and change the meaning of certain words over time. For example, the word awful once meant full of awe or inspiring wonder. But over centuries, it shifted to mean something negative and unpleasant due to a misunderstanding in the way it was used, to the point where that just became its understood meaning. However, for a term like politics, political, or politician to change its meaning would inherently rely on what it is referring to, aka relating to the conduct of government, also changing meaning. And as far as I'm aware, the word government still means government. So let's be real. The word political as it's used as a hot button topic in today's day and age is just misusing what the word actually means. Because after all, the fact that women exist isn't political. The idea that people deserve access to healthcare and the ability to live as their authentic selves, not inherently political. These are human truths, not political positions. They relate to the concept of specific groups of humans and their standards of living, not the general populace of a state, nation, or community. So why are they treated that way? Well, because some individuals and organizations want them to be. Turning basic human rights into political debates stirs up division. It creates noise. And for those chasing power, it's a convenient distraction from the real issues, like how resources are distributed or how decisions are made at the highest levels. Politics in its purest sense isn't about creating division. It's about coming together to make life better for everyone, not just a specific group of people. But when those in power reframe basic humanity as a political question, it's no wonder people start to feel alienated. Now, I do want to be super clear. I am talking about this not because I want to preach to those I consider to be on the wrong side. I'm stating it because I truly believe it is an issue that is genuinely disrupting, well, everyone, including myself. I think it's incredibly easy to look at someone and the decisions that they make and see that we disagree with it and therefore assume they're only that, the sum of their bad decisions we disagree with. But if there's anything that I've stated numerous times on this channel, it's this. People are nuanced. People are interesting. People are more than just the individual parts or even the sum of them. People are the most complicated thing we will ever attempt to and fail to understand. And to be honest, one of the most common comments on the previous video that I saw that got me starting this whole script was this: there was no need for me to cause unnecessary division. You know what, that's a fair point. The other most common comment I saw, besides calling my wife based, was one saying, please don't put politics into my dice games. I come here to get away from that. Let me address that. Here's the deal, friends. I didn't put politics into these games. And it is exactly that type of stance and viewpoint that I believe causes just as much unnecessary division. Because here's a hard truth. There is no such thing as a story without politics, and no such thing as a game of D&D or TTRPG without politics. Every piece of media reflects the time and space in which it was created. Stories are a way to explore values, question societal norms, and imagine new possibilities. I mean, take a look at classic games like The Legend of Zelda. At its heart, it's about a community under threat of a dominant tyrannical force and the people who rise up to protect it using the established rulership of a monarchy. That is a story about governance, responsibility, and justice, all inherently very political themes. Not only that, how many campaigns have you or your group played that revolve around corrupt kings, oppressed peoples, or just the fight for equality in general? I mean, leading a rebellion, overthrowing tyranny, or advocating for misunderstood groups of goblins. These are political acts and have far more political statement than anything I have ever said on my channel, and yet they're a mainstay in campaigns. But no one calls those political. Why? It's because they're comfortable. They fit with the status quo. But the moment a game touches on topics like gender or race, people start throwing around the word political like it's a slur. I can say I believe in women's rights, and people will cry out that I shouldn't infuse politics into my channel, but I can then suggest it's an interesting character choice to have a paladin choose to betray their king, and not one person got upset by that? Despite one of those being objectively based on the definitions of the words we've discussed in this video, far more political. The truth is, discussing diversity and social implications or identity isn't an intrusion of politics into games, it's storytelling. And it was always meant to be a part of the hobby and as the storytelling medium of a whole. It's about exploring humanity from different perspectives. It's what gives our games meaning, it's what makes them meaningful. And at the same time, it's true of movies and TV shows and video games because they are all storytelling mediums that matter and exist to make a point. And if you want to argue that they shouldn't be utilized to make a point, then you're claiming that these things are not art. You can't have it, we can't have it, both ways. Either media that we consume is art and matters and is worth caring about, or it is mindless dribble that doesn't have an impact and therefore shouldn't be taken seriously in the slightest. And anytime you felt inspired by a book, or a movie, or a game that you played, that was ridiculous and you need to grow up. I personally believe that sentiment is wrong. I believe it's dead wrong. Of course, it's not ridiculous to be inspired by stories. If you weren't, you wouldn't watch this channel. So therefore, it matters. Therefore, there is no reason it shouldn't explore these concepts. The concepts that we shouldn't allow ourselves to be told are political. Because they're not. Beyond dice rolls, stat sheets, and mechanics, our games are fundamentally storytelling. That's the heart of this hobby. It's what sets tabletop RPGs, video games, and narrative-driven board games apart from any other board game or war game ever. When you sit down to play, you aren't just moving pieces on a board or controlling a character with special abilities, you're creating a story. That story might be about heroism or discovery or loss or triumph, but at its core, it's a story that asks one essential question: what if? What if I lived in a world with magic? What if dragons roamed the skies? What if I could rise above my current circumstance and become a hero? These questions drive human creativity. They push us to imagine new possibilities and explore worlds all beyond our own. They let us escape, yes, that is true, but not just from the mundane realities of life like so many people on the internet seem to insist they're meant to do. They let us escape into a deeper understanding of ourselves and of others. Because these what ifs go beyond magic and monsters. What if I were a girl instead of a boy? What if I grew up in a society on the brink of collapse? What if I had wealth and power or none at all? Those aren't political questions. They're human ones. They reflect our natural curiosity and our innate desire to understand life from perspectives other than our own. The ability to ask what if is what makes us human. It's how we grow, it's how we connect, it's how we learn. That's why representation matters. No, that's why stories matter. It's not about forcing an agenda or pandering to any particular group. It's about reflecting on the vast, diverse world we live in today. It's about giving everybody a chance to see themselves in the stories we tell. A strong female lead in a video game isn't political, it's an opportunity to explore the world through those eyes. A same-sex relationship in a campaign isn't political, it's a chance to tell a love story that resonates with people who've rarely seen themselves represented in media, and you can connect with too. A narrative about systemic injustice in a fantasy kingdom isn't political, it's storytelling at its most powerful, asking us to think about fairness and empathy in our own lives, and what's wrong with that? And yet, even as I sit here editing this video, I can hear more comments. I can feel there's more to this conversation than I've allowed, because there is another side to this story. One where, ultimately, those outcrying against the inclusion of these things in media have a point. Not because they just want to see a world in which they only see themselves represented and therefore never have to think about anyone but themselves. No, honestly, those people truly do need to look in the mirror and realize they live for nothing but selfishness. However, what I'm talking about are the people who cry out at these types of inclusions because they feel they take away from media. That this type of inclusion somehow rots it. They believe the very act of including representation and the so-called political agenda of others into the sacred medium of storytelling is destroying the art form from the inside out and leaving nothing but a hollow husk. And you know what? I think they're right. Now, before you come after me with your pitchforks and torches, I'm gonna ask those of you who are on the side of representation to give me the same respect that I've asked the other side to give me so that I have a chance to explain what I've come to understand in my pursuit of learning about this topic. Let's acknowledge something important here, okay? When representation is poorly handled, when inclusivity is shoehorned into a narrative for the sake of inclusivity and nothing more, that is truly soulless. Because when creators treat representation as a box to check, rather than a meaningful aspect of the story that's being told, it does become hollow. It feels like a disingenuous attempt to placate rather than an effort to authentically reflect the world and the people within it, and it does nothing to genuinely represent those it pretends to care about. This, understandably, frustrates audiences who feel that the depth and nuance of the art they love has been sacrificed for the shallow tokenism that's occurring. But let's not mistake this point for a condemnation of inclusivity itself. In fact, it's far from it. What I'm attempting to underscore here is the need for care, for effort, and for genuine intention when weaving representation into our stories. When done right, inclusivity doesn't just add to media, it genuinely enriches it. See, I've been sitting here expressing how much storytelling cannot be divorced from politics, as the entire point of it is to explore others' thoughts and points of view. But let's be realistic, that means nothing if the creator of said art isn't actually interested in or trying to explore those other points of views genuinely. When a creator includes the representation because they feel a sense of obligation rather than a sense of inspiration, of course you're going to get lackluster storytelling. And so to those who feel like this quote-unquote woke representation is making stories worse, I mean, can you really blame them for feeling that way? Of course, this then leads to the question of, if that's the case, how are we supposed to learn anything about representation? If storytelling is the act of putting yourself in someone else's shoes, but we cannot tell stories about points of view we don't understand because we don't feel inspired by them, then what is the point? What is the point, indeed? The point is, when representation, when so-called politics are tackled by those who actually have different points of view and have something interesting to say about it, we get stories that are, without a doubt, simply and undeniably art. Black Panther, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Get Out, Spider-Verse, Rogue One, The Last of Us, Celeste, PlayStation Spider-Man, Undertale, Mouthwashing. So many stories only exist in the form that they are loved in today because the people who came to tell the story had something to say. Yes, there was representation in them, but only because those who were being represented were telling their stories through art. And it is exactly that act that allows us as people to experience the art of others and begin to understand them. So why does it feel like so much representation is just pandering, heartless, and hollow? Well, because certain people and organizations have realized that pandering makes money, but they won't let the people who actually have something to represent and say make the art. They'd rather pay the most recent big-name actor, director, writer, whatever. Not because they're the best to tell that story, but because they will listen and fold when told they're going too far and not representing these groups in a way that is marketable for the corporation that is hell-bent on making money and doing nothing else. But I believe the track record speaks for itself. When somebody has something to say and represents themselves in the art, it becomes something priceless. So if you get annoyed when you see representation, you know what? Genuinely, I get it, but you're getting mad at the wrong thing. Don't get mad at the people being represented because they're somehow ruining your art. Get mad at those who won't let the people with genuine stories be the ones to tell and bring that representation. Get mad at the people who think you are so dumb, so thoughtless, so ignorant that you won't be able to tell the difference between a good story and a bad one. Because obviously you can tell the difference. You can tell when the representation is meaningless, hollow, and worthless. But they have convinced us to be angry at each other for it, all while they rake in bounds of cash off the struggle of people just wanting to tell, partake in, and consume good art and storytelling. They have made us fools so that they can make money and pit us against each other for their lackluster art, rather than allowing the representation to tell a genuine, actual, good story. And honestly, this leads me to an important fact that must be faced. We've been lied to. You, me, everyone. We've been told that these things are political to make us afraid of them. We've been told that stories about people different than ourselves are dangerous and divisive. And so rather than looking at a story from someone else's point of view and finding connections with them, therefore allowing us to see ourselves even though a protagonist we initially did not feel we had anything in common with, we instead reject it because somehow someone who actually has an agenda convinced us that we should be scared of it. But they're not dangerous to anybody. They're not dangerous to anyone but the people who stand to gain from having a society where everyone is at each other's throats instead of working together to make things better. Stories about humanity do not tear us apart. They bring us together. They help us understand each other, even if we disagree. Much like why I made this video. Games, stories at their best are a reflection of who we are and who we want to be. When you lead a rebellion against a corrupt king in your campaign, you're exploring ideas of justice and governance, which is inherently political. When you rescue a princess who decides to chart her own path, you're engaging with questions about autonomy and agency, which some people would say is political. When you create a character with a different background, race, or gender than your own, you're stepping into someone else's shoes to see the world from their perspective and realizing, guess what? We're not that different from each other. But to some people, that's political. But they're not political. They're storytelling. They're what make this hobby so profoundly human. And they're a reminder that at the end of the day, we're all asking the same question. What if? That's why politics belongs in our game. Because the stories we tell wouldn't exist without them. And neither would the connections we form through this incredible, imaginative, and deeply human pastime. I think it's likely that after everything that I've said here, there's one lingering question, one burning question that is unanswered. If I believe so strongly in this, if I truly feel this way, then why do I insist that we are not walking back on the statement we made at the beginning of the previous video? Does that not just create the division that I am going against? Am I not just being a hypocrite? And the answer is yes. But no. Truthfully, I feel I owe a genuine explanation. In the portion of the previous video, there was a statement made that said if you voted for a certain party, you were not welcome in this community. I would like to add an addendum to that statement. If you voted for Donald Trump and what he stands for, and you do not have the ability to reflect on what that genuinely means outside of yourself, then no, I don't believe you're welcome in this community. Because the truth is, this community is, without a shadow of a doubt, built on loving those next to you, pursuing unity for everyone. It is built on playing your role in society so that everyone can thrive. And if you feel attacked by what I just said, I encourage you, please, to just sit and hear me out for just a few moments. I truly, genuinely believe that every person should be allowed to do what they feel led to and embrace the life that makes them happy, so long as it does not harm others. I truly wish it wasn't true, but to support the policies and ideals of the upcoming administration while being informed on what exactly they value and desire to achieve is simply not playing your role. It is actively campaigning against the concept. The administration wants to deport countless families using National Guard with no regards or care to where those families, fellow human beings, end up. It wants to outlaw life-saving medical procedures that are mandatory to keep thousands alive every year, effectively murdering those people. It desires to change taxes to favor corporations who have gouged our economy and left hundreds of thousands without homes, while leaving practically no protections from those consequences from the working class. Which, mind you, the working class is 99.9% of the audience of this channel. It aims to attack LGBTQIA+ rights, all under the guise of addressing unfounded fears of inclusivity. They are fighting to eliminate the Department of Education, a long-standing entity established to ensure the children of this country are well prepared for the world that they are going to be born into, all while ensuring that they are enforcing ideological compliance in schools rather than allowing the children just to think for themselves. They are targeting the Affordable Health Care Act, wanting to remove the system that countless people rely on in order to get the medical help they need, a large majority of which, by the way, is the voter base that voted for Donald Trump, and more. And none of what I just said is made up in the slightest. It is all true and verifiable facts that you can easily fact check yourself, and I will be providing the information for such in the description below. Much of it came directly from his website. And those facts make it incredibly, undeniably, and irrevocably clear. Supporting those acts is not playing your role. It is not supporting those around you. It is actively, constantly campaigning to directly harm others. And look, as much as I hate to admit it, I get it. Why should you care for others when nobody else is watching out for you in this world? Why would you fight to try and help others when they are actively attempting to hurt you, to hurt your children, to make the world a worse place? Right? Why would you put your neck out when you have to watch out for yourself in a dangerous, dangerous world that won't watch out for you? But the people who are actively attempting to hurt you, to hurt your children, and to make the world a more selfish place aren't the people next to you. It's not the trans girl you know down the road. It's not the person from a different race in your workplace. It's not a Democrat or a Republican or a white person or a black person or a gay person or a male or a female or anybody else. Because those people, the people living next to you, just want the same thing as you. They want to feel safe. They want to feel like the world is made for them. They want to know that there will be food on their table every night and tomorrow and every day, and they will never have to be afraid that it won't be. Just like you. The real threat, the real danger are the people who are the most scared of all. It's the ones who are scared of what happens if you stop hating your neighbor. The ones who are scared if you stop caring how someone else dresses. The ones who are scared of you and your potential when you stop focusing on the things you've been told are political, and instead start focusing on how and who is so intent on keeping us divided so we don't notice that they haven't done a damn thing for us for decades. You're not selfish for wanting a better world for yourself. They're selfish for wanting a better world for themselves at the expense of you and the people next to you, at the expense of me, at the expense of your neighbors, at the expense of your children, at the expense of everybody who's just standing right next to each other. I genuinely don't believe that anybody who considers themselves a part of this community supports hatred for hatred's sake. I think it's easy to be lied to and to not look at the world around us and to become so scared that we just start to fight everything. But we don't have to fight everything. We get to tell stories, we get to communicate, we get to experience. We get to play our role. The world's not so scary when you stop fighting it on your own. Trust me, because I've done that. So go out and make it your own instead. Because if the world is ours, if it's mine, if it's theirs, if it's yours, there's no reason to brave it alone anymore. So go out, play your role. This was a hard script to write. I admit it is only vaguely about the perceived point of this channel, which is to talk about D&D, but I have long considered that to just be the framework of what this is really all about, helping us understand that stories are nothing more than a pathway to love each other. There is a lot of division in the world, and I get that it's a scary place, but I truly do want to embrace each other, not encourage us to divide. Because of the topics in this video, it's incredibly likely the algorithm tanks it, and I am prepared for that. But if I can reach even 1 or 2 people and make them feel like they have a place, that it's not so scary to love, then I feel I have done what I am obligated to do by having an audience. I am lucky to have what I have, and I don't want to take it for granted. I understand there are many people that will be bummed out by this video, or wish that I didn't make it, or just want me to go back to what it is that I do.
Don't worry, next video.
But it is important to do what we're supposed to. It is important to help everybody around us. It is important to help each other. I genuinely believe that's what this hobby is about. And I believe to base so much of my presence online on anything else is disingenuous. So thank you for sticking with this. If you think it might be able to add encouragement to anybody, please send it to them.
If you agree or disagree, like, let this be a place to have that discussion, and also on like any other video. I don't think it was either of our intention to not have a conversation, but I also don't think us attempting to address it in the comment section of the last video would have been healthy, productive, and I'm a firm believer that if you need to tell somebody something, because tone matters so much in communication, and it's so easy for a comment to come off as rude from either of us when attempting to address this with the nuance that a lot of y'all called us out on not using. So
can you give them a go play your role?
Go play your role.
Thank you all for being here.